Hello, everyone. It's been quite a while since I last had a production here, so we can perhaps pick up where we left off last time. I remember one of the topics that we talked about in the past was willpower and how to get stronger. It's pretty good. Hibiscus tea. It's a bit sour, but it's apparently very good for you. So tonight, in this segment, we'll touch a little bit more about willpower and how to get it. As I received a comment that they would like to know more about this subject. And in the meantime, I'm trying to prepare a little bit more elaborate explanation of it with some demonstrations which will help you to understand this concept better, as otherwise it will all be just theory, which I don't think theory will help you much, as it is helpful, but not as much as I think you need to know to be more clear about this science, this understanding of our hidden abilities. As I said, look at it in this way that, like if you're looking at an iceberg, you will see a tip of the iceberg, some of them pretty big, some of them small. But what you see on the surface of the water, it's called tip of the iceberg, which is not all of the iceberg. Thousands and thousands times bigger than what's visible on top of the ocean is underneath the ocean, which together they make the total of the power of the iceberg, the size of the iceberg. We too, in life, we have mind and power. The power that is, or the segment that is visible to everyone's eye, is the physical part. Some of us are very big, some of us are smaller, but that is not the actual all of the power that we possess, because that is exactly like the visible segment of an iceberg. What we are being seen as is the visible part of the iceberg. Once we understand the inner power, our mind power, and once we are able to combine our mind power with our physical power, and they both walk together or are coordinated in such way that we can then call it our total power, we would manifest our total power there. It is like when we learn how to have mind and body coordinated, the mind and the body part. If they understand the relationship between the each and how they are coordinated and the relationship between each other is, and then they become one entity. As you know, we are one entity, but we are made out of two parts. Mind, which we always put our hand here, signifying mind, and the body, which is self-explanatory. However, in this segment, we want to explain a little bit further about the relationship between mind and the body, and then further in a different segment perhaps, or maybe in this segment we'll amalgamate it, try to talk about the relationship between ourselves and the nature, the universe, the cosmos, the energy that flows through the cosmos, flows through the universe, flows through us, the energy that has made whatever everything there is in this universe. As you know, everything is made out of energy. So are we. And to be able to understand the relationship between mind and the body, and then understand the relationship between us and the universe, or energy, that would be quite helpful in many facets. Whether it's going to be used in our sports activities to achieve higher and better abilities or performances, or whether it's going to be used in our day-to-day basis through our challenges that we face with every day, studies, business, people, interactions, challenges, whatever it may be. However it's going to be used, it will be very helpful. And hopefully we will harness this and learn this and put it to all positive plans and objectives that we may have, which would benefit ourselves and benefit the world in general. So therefore we would be an extension of the universal energy, which will help and promote and boost this wonderful energy that comes towards us, and therefore we will also, with our actions, give a little bit more of a positive substance and results because of this flow of this particular energy that has come towards us, which it will pass through us and flow further. So we want to use that to put to good work. Now, let's pretty much begin from the beginning. Let's understand the rules of mind and rules of body, some of them at least. You know, you can't sit down and keep eating food and say, you know, eat, and expect your mind to be strong also. Well, you may get fat or strong, depending on how you use the energy that you get from that food later on through sports and exercise and whatnot. But your mind will not be affected much. For the same token, you can't sit down and keep thinking hamburger, and then feel full physically. It wouldn't work either. So no matter what you think about food, you won't get full, and no matter how much you eat, you won't have a strong mind. So let us understand how we can manifest our total power and feel stronger and become more coordinated with the flow of the energy of the universe, the cosmos. Some people call it different names. Cosmic energy, ki in Japanese, ki, ki. In Chinese, they call it qi. And different names, but same thing. Nature's power. So, let us understand the rule of the planet that we live on first. A bit heavy, but it's very interesting. You know, on this planet Earth that we live on, the way it's set up, however it's set up, I'm not going to get into that. I'm not a scientist to debate that. But the way the reality of our planet works is that weight of all objects are naturally focused on their lowest point. In other words, weight of all objects are underside, under them, at their lowest point, concentrated there. For example, this pen, the way our planet is set up, its weight, it's focused at this very lowest point of this whole pen. In other words, if I let it go, it will fall down, it won't go up, or it won't hover. Perhaps helping me to understand that its weight heading downward. And there must be a reason for that. The reason, whatever it is, that's the way this planet is set up. Some people call it gravity. However it is called, however the reason is, the reality of it is that the weight of all objects on this planet Earth is pointing downwards. The weight of all objects are focused on their lowest point. Weight of all objects are underside. If we agree this, it doesn't look like I let it go, but I do actually, see? So if we agree the fact that weight of all objects on this planet, the way it is focused at their lowest point, which means when we let it go, it falls down. Therefore, we can also accept or imagine that weight of our upper body, let's talk about the upper body up to our waist, just because We forget about the legs for now because we would imagine ourselves sitting down for this exercise, or you can think of it as standing. Doesn't matter. But let's talk about half of our body, just to the lower than our navel, about maybe 10-20 centimeter lower than our navel. So if we consider that portion of our body also an object, which is true, we are also, in a way, an object. Therefore, weight of this object is also at its lowest point. And the lowest point of this object would be pretty much very close to, we can imagine a point, small point, very close to that 10-20 centimeter lower the abdomen, lower the navel. So if you have a hypothetical point about 10-20 centimeter lower than our navel, that very point, or that area, we can say that would be our lowest point of this object, our upper body. So therefore, it's natural and it's reasonable to think, with the experience that we just did with the pen, that weight of all this part of our body is also focused, concentrated at its lowest point, which we decided it to be about 10 or 20 centimeter, like maybe 6 or 7 inches or more, 8 inches, something like that. two and a half centimeter to an inch. So that would be like about 8 inches, let's say, lower the navel, or something to that. It's not precise. So we pick a point at that particular area and we say, well, that's where the weight of this object, our upper body, is concentrated. Well, that's reasonable because we just talked about this law of this thing that goes on this planet Earth. Weight of all objects are naturally on this side. So weight of our upper body is naturally focused at that very point, about 8 inches lower the abdomen, lower the navel, or that area. So, okay, we can understand that. But then we have seen the picture of the statue of Buddha that has a little dot here between the eyes. And, well, let's go a little bit closer to home for all of us to perhaps understand. You've seen when people are kind of want to think, they do this. Signifying that they're thinking. So thinking that their mind is up here. And we've seen the pictures or the statue of Buddha that has a little dot here. All signifying possibly that the mind is here, maybe. Maybe that's what the dot is for, and perhaps most probably that's why we do this, because we human beings think that this is where the mind is. That's where it's housed. So, okay, if that's the case, or if that's an acceptable explanation, then we have a little bit of a challenge. We have a body, just talk about the upper body for now, body that its weight is focused at a point about 8 inches lower than navel, according to the law of this earth, this planet. And then we have the mind that is focused here, supposedly dot of the statue of Buddha is trying to tell us that's where the mind is focused, and when we think, we do this. So it's reasonable to think that's where the mind is focused. Now we have a little problem, because we are one entity, one human being, and we have two focusing points. One is the body, and one is the mind. Well, let's then do an exercise to find out what is the relationship between these 2 points, and which one is the one that we should be thinking as the point for mind and body both to work together and coordinate. So for that, we sit on our knees. That's why we're talking about just half of our body, because we're going to do this exercise sitting on our knees on the floor. And unfortunately, I don't have a dojo available for now to demonstrate that for you. On a different production, I will do that when the setup and the setting is appropriate, and I can show you with the camera or somebody else doing it to sit down and show you how it's done. But for now, just think about sitting on your knees on the floor. And if you do that, you will then think of 2 points as your concentrating point. One would be the mind, and one would be the body. So let's do an exercise. Now let's think about a very long line from way above in the nature, drawing hypothetically and coming through our head and connecting this dot, or at least crossing through this dot, and continuing downwardly in our mind, and also touching that point that we talked about, 8 inches lower than navel. And that line comes from way above and connects this to concentrating point, the mind, the dot between the 2 eyes, and the one that we talked about, our body's weight is concentrated. And then this line continues downwardly to the ends of the universe. It's a long line coming from infinitely high up and comes and passes through this point, and then passes through the physical point that we just said, that is our body's weight is concentrated on, and then continues downward. This is a long line that these 2 points happen to be now connected because of this line passing through both. Now, if you are doing that and somebody else, comes and gently touches your shoulder from your side, sits beside you and touches your shoulder like that, like sits right here beside you, like here, and then touches your shoulder, just gently pushes you back. While you're thinking about this line connecting these 2 points, you will be pretty solid, not easily moved. And once you actually done that exercise, then you can see, well, that's interesting. I seem to be pretty solid. Now then, what you do is you forget about this one, this point, and that line, and you only focus on that point, small point that we talked about, 8 inches lower than navel. You just put your thoughts, think about what color that point is, and exactly where it is. I know where it is. How small is it? And you can close your eyes and just think through it. How small it is, what color it is, where it is. And while you're focusing that point, only the physical point where the body's weight is focused. And if the helper beside you, your partner, will also do the same test with the same vigor or the same softness, no difference than the first time we tested, pushes you on your shoulder again a little bit while sitting beside you, again you feel, pretty solid, it's just the same as before. And now what you do, you forget about that point lower the abdomen, and you focus only on the third eye, on here. You focus on this point that we talked about earlier, about the Buddha's statues having a dot here, or people who think, and we say there's a dot here. So now you think about this, just forget about the one below, and just think about here. When you think about here, when your partner actually pushes you, you just go back very simply and very easily. Which tells you that when you focus on the lower point that we talked about, the mind and body both become naturally coordinated, because that's where is a natural point for both mind and the body to be concentrated. That's where home, that's their natural place of being. But when you forget about that one at the lower of your abdomen and just focus here, you become unstable. When they touch you, you move away. That tells you that the most natural point for our mind and body both to be coordinated is that very small point, which is located about approximately 8 inches lower the navel, or depending on your height, somewhere in that lower area, which is where our body's weight, upper body's weight, is focused. Well, for now, you just ponder on this little thing that I told you about, and then on the next segment, I will actually show you how it's supposed to show and how it will react, and then we'll go from there. There's a lot more to talk about. I don't want to get you tired for now. So have a wonderful evening, and you can try that with your partner and see, and perhaps write me if you have a question, and next time we will address it further. Have a nice evening. Talk to you soon.